All right. Well, hello there, woman beings, and welcome to another episode of the Woman Being Podcast. It is episode 40. It's our season 1 finale episode. We know you have burning questions that we will answer. So without further ado, we're just going to dive right in for the 40th time. Woohoo! That's going to be so loud in your ears. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Woman Being Podcast community,
where we explore thoughts and opinions
and have the freedom to change our minds
without expectation or judgment.
We will hold a safe space and support each other
as we navigate together in the form of feminine.
We are 40 episodes in. We've done a thing. It's amazing. It's been incredible. But we're taking a break. Let's talk about why.
Don't worry, it's not you, it's me.
Definitely.
We'll definitely get back together. Just don't even think about it. It's gonna be okay.
It's kind of like Little Mix.
We just
like
need
they took
space,
a break,
you know?
and then they're back. Anyway. Or no, I won't say that. I won't use that analogy. I was gonna say One Direction, they all broke off and had their own wildly successful careers, except for that one that wasn't as cute.
Yeah, or even the Jonas Brothers.
Or even the Jonas Brothers.
You know
the Jonas Brothers took a break.
They took a break.
Now they're better
and then they
than
did
ever.
individual things, and then now they're back together. We're
so
like the Jonas Brothers.
We are the Jonas Brothers.
This is the Jonas Brothers
100%.
moment.
Obviously.
Yeah. Which one are
I
each
call
of
Nick.
us? I call Joe.
Oh, I'm Kevin. Anyway, we're taking a break like the Jonas Brothers. So get ready for when we come back together.
We'll be better than ever.
Better than ever.
Throwing out big #1 hits.
Oh, 100%.
Podcast hits.
We will top the Spotify charts.
Yes.
We will beat Joe Rogan.
I receive.
But why?
Why are we taking a break?
Yeah. What's your why?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, for anyone that doesn't know, doing a podcast and releasing it every week is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Mostly on Emma, but on all of us. Emma edits these podcasts.
Emma's amazing.
She's a machine. We don't know.
Yeah, she doesn't
somehow
sleep.
she manages it.
I am a robot.
But she might be a robot. We don't know. But yeah, we've got things in our lives other than this podcast. We've got jobs. Mm-hmm. We're all thriving people in jobs. I don't know what you would call it.
We are all thriving in our field.
But I don't know if I want to say I wouldn't call myself a businesswoman.
Yeah.
But anyways, we are thriving young workers.
Starting to sound very communist. Like the workers.
And we have family.
Mm-hmm.
We have friends. Kelly and I have husbands. Emma has a dog niece.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the dating world to explore and things like that. So
apparently.
So I think we, and by we I mean I was the one that proposed this, but like anything, you need to work hard and play hard. Mm-hmm. And so this is our decision to play hard.
Yep.
And to have a fun summer. And honestly, our studio gets so hot.
Yeah.
When it's not summer. So
it's
we're not
1,000 degrees in the summertime here.
We're not really interested in finding out what it's like to record a 2-hour podcast in 115 degree weather.
Like a swampy vagina. That's what that's like.
I mean, it's swampy even when we're not in summer. Let's be real.
Regular. It's just swamp, but whatever.
Even in the winter, it's cold. It gets hot in here.
It gets so hot.
So, anyways, that's not the reason, but that's just a bonus that we're not going to record in summer. But yeah, I think for me it's a big thing. We have other interests. We have other creative interests. Kelly's got something she's cooking up. Emma's working on something. I'm working on something, so we've got other creative ventures that we want to spend our free time working on. And although we love this podcast very much, we want to make space for other things in our life that matter too. So hence the break.
Yeah.
So that we can come back for season 2 very, very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to iterate, because it's not reiterating, because we haven't iterated it yet.
I can reiterate it for you.
Okay, so I'll iterate it, you reiterate it.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to be resuming episodes in September.
Yes.
It'll be the first Tuesday of September.
Yeah.
Yes.
1,000%.
Which is a day.
Are you going to reiterate that?
I'm reiterating the first Tuesday of September. Mark your calendars
Season
for
2.
Woman Being Season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah. Just get that out of the way. I know you guys were panicking. You were like, wait, what? They're on a break, but for how long? Is this a break
This
or
is
is
a
this a
scheduled
break up?
This is like summer break.
Yeah. This is like, yeah. You
Like
know?
school's
What
out.
time is it? Summertime. It's
You
our
guys-
vacation.
You guys have stuff you want to do too besides listen to a podcast over the summer. This is like hot girl, no mask summer.
Yeah.
And
Hashtag vaccination.
Yeah, vaccinated girl summer.
There you go.
So you want to do other things too, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, like catch up on all the episodes you missed this year and leave us a review.
And
Yeah.
re-listen to all of your favorites.
Exactly. And share them with your friends. So
Maybe
like think
we
about
should,
all the
like-
things you could do this summer. Is there anything else to add to why we are taking a break?
Yeah, I mean, I think mental health, well, for me, I won't speak for the other ladies, but like for me, mental health is a big focus. And so also creating space to like some things that I've picked up throughout our time that I'm like, I want to actually spend some time unpacking that and deconstructing some things and like doing whatever. I am very big on a hot girl summer. My hot girl summer looks like paddleboarding and waterfall chasing, and that's about it. Also, like I think, Kelly mentioned, we are all creatives and we all like to do other creative things. And the time that it takes to produce this creative venture, which is amazing, doesn't leave space for potentially other creative ventures. And so we'll be doing things together throughout the summer. It's just not necessarily Woman Being. And I'm excited for those things. I really can't wait to see what comes out of our time off because one, it's kind of a sabbatical, but two, it also gives that space to other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, we'll get to explore. I mean, we'll still be posting on like Instagram.
We're not leaving,
TikTok.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
on
yeah.
TikTok
We'll
now.
do a lot of TikTok.
Yeah. And so we'll get to sort of explore those creative avenues as well. What
Yeah.
we'll post about as we're not releasing episodes constantly.
Maybe some cute pics of our hot girl summer. Who can
You
say?
know, we might have a photo shoot coming up. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want to go camping. So
We can go camping.
That I'm not asking you guys. I'm telling you I want to go camping, and so that's a reason.
So we're
for
not
me.
invited?
Also, we scheduled a Woman Being retreat.
Yeah.
We just booked our Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we're going to go and we're going to dream and we're going to talk about all of our ideas and we're going to put it down on a whiteboard or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if our Airbnb has a whiteboard, but we're going to do it.
I have some
And then-
massive like stickers that are whiteboards you can put on the wall. I can bring
Amazing. We're going to talk about
those. Vision.
guests that we want to have, vision,
Building.
like ideas, series, things like that. So,
Yeah.
stay tuned. We're actually creating space for us to do this thing better.
Yeah.
And more awesome.
I think that's
more
also
better. Better and
important
more
to
better.
note. Like, we get so caught up in the like pushing out another episode and like making sure we have everything we need that there's not much space to be like, okay, but like, what can we do better? Or maybe we want to do this special series of posts, or maybe we want to, like ways we can refine and make things better. And so to me, this feels very strategic, not only for our personal lives, but also for the project itself.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask both of you ladies a question, actually, now that we're talking about taking a break.
ask me.
As we look back on this beautiful 9 months that we've had, and actually the summer leading up to September was all planning and strategizing, and oh my gosh, it's just amazing to think back to those days.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you have learned since we started this podcast, and what are some of the things you've been processing?
How to work well with others.
Still learning that, I
Still
think.
learning. Yeah, I think that's one thing. I think whenever you're doing a project with other people, there's a lot to learn. I think especially when you're doing a project that's like a passion project, that is, we are all like heading this up and leading this together. And so figuring out how to do that well, I think has definitely been a process for me specifically in like having more like empathy and like understanding for like where you guys are coming from with different things. And I think that in a lot of ways you guys remind me to like feel when we talk about our episodes that we're gonna do, when we talk about what topics we're covering, but then also like how we are operating as individuals. And so that's forces me to then like also take time and to rest or to evaluate or to also like care about the feelings, questions, and things like that. And so that's one thing that I feel like has been a process for me, like overarching across this whole podcasting process. I think that I've also learned that people, if you ask, will say yes. Like,
yes, that's been a huge thing.
Yeah, people actually are not as scary as you think they are.
Yeah.
And will actually give you a yes when you put yourself out there. And that's what we've seen time and time again when we've sought after our guests. And we have gotten people on the podcast that we never thought would say yes. And I think that that's motivating us to now in season 2 go after even bigger goals when it comes to our guests and our topics. And so that's been really cool.
Yeah. We have gotten most of our dream guests this year.
Really?
I feel like
Oh.
we got a good amount of dream guests.
We did. We had a lot of people that we thought were like, maybe someday, we don't know.
Yeah.
And then like, oh my gosh, they're actually on our podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's many more on that list, but when we first started planning last summer, it was like, okay, like if we can get this person and maybe this person, like that'd be like amazing.
Yeah.
It happened.
I remember being like, oh, I don't think this would ever happen, but what if we got Candace Johnson?
Yeah.
We just had
Megan
her-
Shantz.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
she was like a big, like,
She was a
ethereal, maybe
Big
someday in
deal
the future.
for us.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But yeah, I agree. I think also like learning time and time again how much you are genuinely not alone has been a huge thing for me. I'm like, wow, other people that you might not expect are going through either the exact same thing you are or the same or very similar or similar enough to where you guys can understand each other. And I think that's really beautiful to me that like no matter how high up someone might seem, like they are human and they are having a human experience and you can relate on that. And then I've actually really loved being stretched in a way, like when it comes to the creative process. Because like when I'm creative, I tend to be very creative on my own. And like learning how to be creative with a group of people is its own jam. And that's good and that's helpful in many ways, but especially when it's something you're not making money on, you know, like it's like not your job to like work with these people and to like you know, work well, be creative, be collaborative. It's like, no, this is a choice. And that in itself is very powerful, I feel like, and that's learning a different process in a way. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny that both of you mentioned like working together and collaborating, because I remember when you started talking, Emma, about like working together as a team, that when we started, because we had all worked together like at work before, and I remember being like, working with you, Emma, at work was so drastically different than working with you, Emma, on like something you really were passionate about and cared about. And I was different too, and you were a little bit different. And like at work, I take on like a very like boss lady, I'm gonna like put the ducks in a row and get everybody going kind of role, because that's like my job. And Emma has always been like so like chill and like, okay, whatever you think, like I don't really care, I'm gonna get it done. And then I feel like the roles reversed a little bit, where Emma was suddenly like, okay, ladies, let's get this done. Like she started,
100%.
yeah, she took on this like huge like I don't know, like drill sergeant role in the best way possible.
Yeah, not in like a bad way.
Not in a bad
like,
way,
just
but
making
like,
shit
like
happen.
literally like Emma, the chill, I don't care, everything's cool girl, to suddenly like, hey, we're gonna get this shit done, girl.
Yeah.
Like it was a surprise to me to be like, I've never seen Emma in this capacity.
Yeah.
But it was also really beautiful to see you come alive for something that you really care about. And I think for me it was fun to see myself like relax into something that was fun to do and not something that I had to do, and to perform for my own self and not for like the role of a job and, you know, meeting deadlines or getting a mark.
Yeah.
And so I think I saw myself like relax and find get more comfortable with the team, but maybe I became less useful. I don't know, but it was just like really, I remember being so shocked in those first few months when we really started going and being like, yeah, like it's so funny that our dynamic is so different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I remember being so surprised because, like, if you do the Enneagram, I'm a 1. And so normally I'm the, like, super detailed person, like, super, like, very planned out, like, prepped ahead of time. And when you're a 1 and you are in health, you actually swing to a 7. And all of a sudden I was like, it's just fun. We're going to have a good time. And I was like, who am I? Like, it was crazy. So even to observe myself
I think
going through that
sure.
is so interesting.
Kelly Ann and I both like chilled out doing something that we liked, and Emma like ramped up doing something that she loved.
If we're talking the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 4, which goes to 1 in health. And so I go to the get everything done, perfectionist, task-oriented person. And so...
And a 3 goes to 6 in health, I want to say.
I'm not sure.
I don't know like if it's 6 or 9, but it's like I become more relational, I become more genuine and like people focused and less like task and performance focused. So I mean,
That's
like
interesting.
Yeah.
I also go to a 4 in unhealth. So there were definitely some times that I was like, that I felt myself swinging that direction. And I was like, whoa, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, I need a drink and to go to bed. That's what I clearly need right now. And so it's interesting, like observing yourself and learning yourself through a creative process that you're choosing, that's not to earn money, and that you're doing with a team.
Yeah. I think like the hardest part for sure was like getting overwhelmed. And like, I think threes go to a 9 on health. Anyways, 3s when they're unhealthy just in general, I don't know. It doesn't matter which one they swing to, but in unhealth, we kind of like check out and we're kind of like, well, if I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. And I'm just like going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And so like with a stressful job combined with a podcast that we care deeply about, but also takes a lot of time and like
It's stressful.
literally late nights, you guys. Like we've spent so many late nights together and so many long days together, and I cherish them so much. But definitely would see myself kind of be like, all right, I'm out, like mentally gone.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm gonna not pay attention to this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that too sometimes.
I mean, everyone does to an extent. But yeah, and another thing actually that I feel like I've learned through us doing this podcast is that I think I've brought this up on the podcast maybe once before, but I was like praying one day and talking to God and was basically like repenting because I felt like I wasn't spending enough time with God. And God reminded me that I actually do every Saturday when we record, and that this is something that God supports and actually like cherishes, and remembering that like God is not confined to what we define as worship, and that this is actually an act that glorifies God because we are speaking truth about things that Jesus cares about, and that Jesus really cherishes. And I mean, people might disagree, but I think Jesus is on our side, you know? Yeah. And so that's another thing that it's been like, this is actually a really tender way to commune. And I mean, the words of the Bible are true, and that like where 2 or more are gathered, there God is as well. And we've been able to hear from such amazing women of God and 2 men of God. And
some men, there's some men in there.
Yeah, and like that has like, I just think that it delights God. And so that's another thing that I feel like I've learned, and just remembering like, just because things look different doesn't mean that it's not glorious.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm like proud of us. Like, I think once we hit episode 30, I suddenly like I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
We've made 30 episodes of a podcast. Like, wow, we did that.
Like 3/4 of a baby.
Yeah. And now that we're at 40, I just look back and I'm like, dang, like, I remember when we were first starting, there was like somebody that we knew that was also starting a podcast in September. And they were like, you know, it wasn't like a competition, but it also felt a little bit like a competition, like whose podcast is going to be more successful. And like that podcast ended up never getting off the ground. And like we just like stuck with it and like didn't let other outside forces like influence what we thought. Like we knew what we wanted to do, and we said like, we know this is important and we're just going to do it regardless. Like we're not like trying to be the most uber successful podcast or anything. We're just going to like put our hearts out there. And like I look back at all the work that we've done and I'm like, wow, like we did it. We did a podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when we first started talking about it, we talked about how if you get past your first 10 episodes, then you'll be able to keep going.
Yeah.
And once we made it past 10, we were like, yes,
we made it.
Did it.
We've made it.
And like, now we've quadrupled that.
Yeah. Which is like, I don't know. I'm just very proud of you guys and proud of us. And like, I think like that's a feat. Like it's a feat when someone like writes a book, you know, like that's not something that you can just casually do. Like we dedicated a lot of time and we focused on it. And I mean, I would never have done it with anybody else. Like, you guys are great. And I think, like, it's so valuable to think about the conversations that we were having in private. And, like, Kelly Ann, your realization that, like, hey, we need this to be, like, out in the open for people to listen to. And I think that is so important. Like, those conversations are the types of conversations that everybody's thinking or talking about quietly, but nobody's, like, talking about in the open. And so it's been like my great privilege to like bring that out into the open with you guys.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of bringing things into the open, one of the things that's been sort of part of our like mantra, part of I think it's in our website somewhere in the description, is the gray.
Yes.
We want to dive into the gray. We want to explore the murky and the unexplainable or the less explored. And I'm curious to hear what some of those gray areas that we've looked into on the podcast have sort of stood out to you guys, or like what has sparked something in you to make you want to, you know, seek more.
Oh my gosh, something.
I mean, wow. I mean, I feel like there are ways we could dive into more on many of the topics. I mean, some of the near and dear topics to me are the topics of race, the topics of purity culture. We have a deconstruction episode that came out just last week. That's a very near and dear thing. Also getting to host a space for Jared's story. And then also like showing the other side of the coin with Elizabeth's story. Like that's a scary thing, but it was like, actually I feel like there's gray in this, and there, like, it deserves to be showed both sides. So I feel like all those things, there's a lot, but
I think of specifically the things that came to mind were Lana Cruz. Her episode really sparked in me like this exploration of pleasure and like being in your body in the moment. Because I mean, for sure, as the person that I am, I tend to sort of like disconnect, focus on the task at hand, and like not pay attention to anything. And so learning to just be in the moment, feel the feels, explore all five senses, those sort of things, like relax and like melt into the moment of like whether it's eating or like being outside or sex or like all of the good things in life, and even the bad things. I think like pushing into the present has been really impactful for me, and it's something I'm continuing to process. I've asked almost every guest on our podcast, how do you process church hurt? And so I feel like I've been on like a little mission, on a personal mission to like learn how to process it for myself and like provide that sort of help for other people as well who are experiencing it. So that for sure, like Riva's episode recently was actually really impactful for me. Megan Shantz.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
I'm sure there are others that I just am not thinking of at the moment.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, what else? Deconstructing purity culture, things about race, Carissa, Tinashe, like they brought so much wisdom and like such a beautiful perspective to those conversations that I never heard before. So for me, I am motivated to continue to learn and be a learner in those areas. And yeah, those are the things I think about. I'm glad you brought up Jared. That was it. And Elizabeth. Like those are both like, I mean, deep topics with a lot of layers.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a two-sided issue.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, yes to all of the episodes that you guys listed. For me, I feel like maybe just because this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, but our episodes with Tinashe, Riva, and Carissa, and Candace, all four of those touch a lot on loving people who don't agree with you. And that's something, this has been a turbulent year, you know? When we started this podcast, we had one president, and now we're ending this podcast with a different president and vice president. And that's a huge change that has happened in our nation. And also, when we started this podcast, several people who have since been killed by police were still alive. And I feel very deeply and passionately about race, about politics, and about justice. And so hearing from those four women specifically in the way that they so tenderly like speak about quote unquote the other side, or speak about people who disagree with them, the way that they give grace so freely while still giving conviction and still calling things out, that's been really stretching to me. And I feel like it's something that I've been working through ever since the election happened in November, where I felt like I could take a breath finally and be like, okay, the election, I mean, in case you haven't figured this out, I voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So let's just throw that out there. So I felt like I could take a breath. And then it's like, okay, so now we're here. How do we be a country? And so those have been very encouraging. Another one that's been really cool to me that I feel like the podcast has done is spark more of a desire to like really analyze and dive into like different media that we consume. So like we started a book club through the podcast, which is like, it feels sort of like big to me because I would never be part of a book club because I am a slow reader. I don't read a lot. Like it just depends on what it is, but often I'm just not. And that forced me to read more and to also like really analyze and pick apart these books, and it was so enjoyable to do that. Like I loved analyzing them, and then also the films that we've analyzed, and then on top of that, our episode with Crow and Kuniyoshi, getting to pick apart film and talk about film theory. And I've actually gotten way more into actually learning more and more about film and the way that it works and the way that people put together scenes and the way that movies are constructed, and that's been something that I've been getting more and more into, which is pretty appropriate because it's literally my field of work. I should know these things, but it's fine. So that's another thing that's been more of like a fun thing for me in us doing this podcast, and it's sort of pushed me to grow in that way.
I also want to mention Sarah Parker and Caitlin Joy's
Sarah, I loved
episodes
her episode.
about body image, about shaving, about eating disorders. They both like, I mean, I think this is a lifelong journey, but like there is a very serious ideal of body image that I have been fed my entire life. Mm-hmm. And hearing other people talk about it and like opening up more conversations to talk about it has not only been like beneficial because it's creating inclusivity for everybody, but because it's helping me in my own personal brain break down the idea that I have to be skinny, that I have to be perfect in every moment, that like I can't have, you know, scars or acne or stretch marks or cellulite or things like that. And so both of those ladies talked to us in ways that are like, oh, okay, if I'm gonna love myself, I really have to love myself wholly and not just like the self that I aspire to be or wish that I was or am told that is ideal. So those were really good.
Yeah.
On a journey.
Actually, I love Sarah. Like, that was such a good... I mean, here's the thing. They're all good. Like, we do not put out an episode that...
Just flip our hair
I mean,
that.
Just a little self-flex.
All of our guests,
pat on the back.
They're incredible people. And so, like, it's... You know, we don't put anything out there that I feel like we don't fully put our heart behind. And so, you know... I really liked Sarah's episode, actually, so I'm glad. I mean,
Yeah,
and
it was
Caitlin's
a long
as
time
well.
ago.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And for those of you that didn't know, even though we talk about them on every other podcast that we do, we talked about purity culture. We talk about modesty. We talk about damaging sexual perceptions that we grew up with and body perception. So, you know, like, there's a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Those were all, like, in the same vein.
Well, yeah, I'm saying there's, like, multiple different episodes on those topics.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
like,
I mean, we had a sex therapist on. We had a licensed marriage and family therapist on. Like,
Yes.
we've had a lot of really qualified people come on and say a lot of amazing things.
Like, seriously, shout out to all of our guests. Like, thank you all so
we wouldn't
much
be
for
here
saying
without
yes.
you.
We would not be here without you. So it hasn't all been fun and games. There have been times that were harder and not as exploratory, but more tentative in our experience on Woman Being. And so I'm curious for both of you, what are some opportunities that you've had to be brave in doing the podcast?
That's like I feel like that could go multiple ways.
It could go so many ways.
Open to interpretation.
Yeah. I think one thing that I think about is I'm very aware and wary of the fact that we are 3 white, privileged, middle class, thin women. And we live in California. Like, and we are in the United States of America. And part of me feels like, why would anybody want to listen to us? And who are we to do that? We come from such... what could we have to offer when we're all so similar from that perspective? We're obviously all very different, but like in that frame of reference, I because of that, I think that one of the types of episodes that's been I've been very proud of the way we've been brave in doing them is our ones that cover race, because we, first of all, recognize that we are not the ones to talk about that. Like, we are not experts on the African American experience or on the Asian American experience or any other experience than our own. And the fact that the women that have come on and talked about race have been like willing and have been open with us, that's something that I think in this day and age takes a good bit of bravery on their part, but also on our part in saying, like, we're gonna be your ally, you know? Another one that like scares me a bit, which I didn't realize it scared me when we did it, so I didn't know that I was being brave until afterwards.
Still counts.
Is our episodes that cover things like sexuality and sort of discussing like our pasts and discussing what that has looked like for each of us. I think it's so important for us to be open and candid with you guys, the audience, and to share our experiences. Like, we want for you guys to be able to gain from our experiences. And so I'm so glad that we've been open to the extent that we have been about like sexuality, about coming into your own, talking about, you know, pornography or sex or masturbation, like all of those different things that encompass that. But I also get scared thinking about it because, I mean, let's be real, you guys are married and I'm not. And so if I were like dating, people could just listen to that. Yeah. And they could just hear all about this. And I'm like, oh, great. That's awesome. So that's one thing that like scares me now.
Good thing we have 40 of them. So it's like, who's going to take the time? You know, like
listen, all 40 of them.
Well, I have a story to tell you guys later.
Oh, wow.
I just realized I haven't told you this, but this has to do with dating and
Should we pause?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you later.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really fair. Like, there's a certain level of privacy that goes out the window. And I mean, I feel like I've tried to be brave on many fronts. One, on the relational side with you guys, being brave to show up even when my best is not the best I would like to present. Or being brave when it comes to, I tend to have a little bit more conservative views. I mean, I'm definitely not conservative, but on the scale of conservative to liberal, I'm a little bit more on that conservative side. And so that's scary. Also, like, I aspire to be an author. I am a writer. I love writing. And I want to be on the New York Times bestseller list. And it's scary to think about something I talk about in my mid-20s on a podcast could potentially come back and affect me in my career when I'm 40. And then also even on the privacy end with my husband, he is a very private person. I'm like, I want to do all these things and be in all these spaces. He's like, yeah, I don't want that. I want to be in the background. But he's also a big part of my life. And so trying to protect him, but also share portions of our life that other people might benefit from. And then to be okay failing. Like, I see that, like, I always told my sisters, I have 3 younger sisters, and I've always told them, like, learn from my mistakes, make your own. Don't make my mistakes. And so being open to sharing those those failures with the audience and letting them learn, but it's also scary because I don't want to be judged. So it just kind of goes round and round. I feel like in a way every episode is trying to show up and be brave because we are putting ourselves out there. There's always going to be people that disagree, especially today. Like, cancel culture is a thing. And that's also scary. Because I want people to see the value in what we're trying to do. And then being correctable. Like, we had a post that someone provided some really beautiful feedback on, and, you know, we made a counter post saying, hey, we didn't do the very best we could have, and being correctable in that, but that still requires bravery. So I try to be brave almost every day. We do this. Every time I post, I try to be brave. I mean, it's an ongoing journey, I feel like.
Yeah. Speaking of her posting, in case you guys don't know, Kellyanne is the boss behind our Instagram.
Yeah, she is.
I try.
And so all that goodness you see from her.
You know, sometimes it's the wrong post. Not all the time. But
in the beginning, we had some mishaps, but you not since then.
Sometimes you
know you were just learning.
Forget to post on a day, and then you catch up the next day. But overall, I try to be pretty consistent.
I mean, you all probably never noticed the difference, right? Audience,
probably roughly.
All right, go ahead. Just tell us. We're ready.
We're listening.
Go ahead.
But
right.
Oh, yeah, this bit's still going. Right. We're committed now. I think doing a podcast at all was brave, and to me, I think Kellyanne came to us and was like, we should do a podcast. And I was like, yeah. And then deep in the dark of my soul, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. Like, what if it fails? What if it sucks? What if nobody cares? And so there's a level of, like, who didn't start a podcast in 2020? Let's be honest. So there's, like, who wasn't like, oh, my gosh, I'm at home and it's a pandemic and I can't go outside, so I'm going to start a podcast, you know? Like, so for us, it was like, okay, we're also in the group or the flow of, okay, we're going to start a podcast too. So, like, to me, it was scary to start during the time that we started, and the fear of, like, just ending up like one of those people that started a podcast during the pandemic and it went nowhere, which it didn't. So go us. But yeah, that took some bravery, I think.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would tell people before we launched, I was like, oh yeah, me and my friends are working on this project. Like,
yeah, I would say
we're gonna start a pod, and they would ask more, and I'd be like, well, we're starting a podcast, and da da da. And I literally had friends tell me after we actually launched, they were like, oh, I didn't think you were actually gonna do that.
Yes, yeah, and so it was scary to say.
Look at us now.
I remember being like, yeah, I called it a project instead of a podcast. Like, oh yeah, my friends and I are working on this amazing project. Can't wait to show you, but like, I'm not gonna like reveal too much just in case it doesn't work out, so that I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah, that's real. And I mean, I even catch myself doing that now. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work on this summer project. It's gonna be fun.
Just a project. I'm just working on a project.
I'm just working on like a side project.
Just like doing a thing.
And yeah, and I feel like that's easy verbiage when you're doing something scary or trying to be brave, because you have the option to kind of back out.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
It's not fully like identifying yourself with the project, if you will. And so I totally get that. And I think I falled into the same category. I fell into the same category for sure, especially in the beginning. But then once we had like an episode out, I was like, oh yeah, we're doing a podcast that's amazing. You should check it out.
And I wanted to add too, like, I totally echo you guys. Like, I had to share things about my life that like are not something I just share with the average person until like we've known each other for a little while, and not had to, but I chose to. And like that's vulnerable, and that's putting yourself out there in a way that you really don't know what's gonna happen. And I mean, honestly, like, our audience is so nice and nobody's ever said anything, but like like Kelly said, someday, you know, who knows. But
yeah, I mean, when you're putting yourself onto a public platform, there's always fear, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's always, you are opening yourself up to be criticized.
Especially when we're exploring topics that we're literally just exploring. Like, we're saying, like, we don't know, we're going to talk about LGBTQ now. Haha. You know, like, as people without, like, expertise in that field, let's talk about race, 3 white girls, you know, things like that. Like,
yeah, I mean, and we've brought people in,
right?
Who
which is
but
you know, like, it's intimidating to like post stuff like that. But anyways, still very good.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, my biggest hope is that as people listen to the podcast, they're also learning and gaining things from it, and feel like it's enriching, you know, that this is something that's beneficial, that this is more than just white noise in your headphones or in your car speaker or whatever. My hope is that there's real takeaways and that we really impact people. And so on that note, I actually, to the women beings that have been listening for the past 9-10 months, like, what should be their takeaway to you guys? What do they do with all this information we've given them? We said, here is a platter of deconstruction and womanhood and feminism and race and LGBTQ and mental health, like, so many things.
We covered so much.
What do they do now?
Ooh, I think I have a good answer for that just came to mind. I did not prep this, I promise. But I had a college professor who, like, talked about this all the time, which is the value of being curious and having, like, a curious mind throughout your life is, first of all, going to enrich your life by so much, but also allow you to see people as people and pull out the humanity in people and pull out the interesting things that exist all throughout life. And I remember being so inspired by him because I was not like a curious person in general. I was sort of like the tell me what I need to know so I can get moving on what I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And but I think that holds true here is like I think the biggest takeaway that I would hope people have is in listening to the, you know, wide variety of topics that we talk about, like that you develop a sense of curiosity in your life. And, you know, you don't have to like care about every single topic we talk about, but like in general, like when somebody tells you like, oh, you know, this about my life that you want to dig in and want to know more and want to read and want to listen to podcasts about it and want to like just enrich your wealth of knowledge as you continue to grow older, because we've never arrived and there's never a point at which we've known everything that there is to know. And so yeah, keeping a curious mind in your life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think I listened to a podcast recently with a professor from Penn State, and he's a professor of history and education. And he wrote a book about the importance of free speech. And he said, you have to have some idiots in the room that are able to speak because you don't necessarily know what you believe until you've heard what you don't believe. And I wouldn't say that applies fully to this, but I think it's important to explore everything. And you don't really know until you've sat down and listened. And also, like, I feel like everyone has a value to bring, regardless of if it's 100% true or not. And so I think that's been really good. Like, I might not see eye to eye to you, but I want to understand why you think the way you think. And I think you still have so much value and so much knowledge that I can still learn from. Or, like, I also follow a teacher, her name's Morgan Day Cecil, and she was like, you don't necessarily know if that's your personality or not because you haven't tried it on. Or, like, if you haven't, like, you don't know if you don't like pink stilettos if you haven't tried on pink stilettos. Like, that kind of idea of, like, actually, I want to know most things. There are some things I can pass on. But, like, you know, like QAnon, I'm good. But, you know, like, again, you need people in the room that you don't agree with or you don't think like. And you can only gain more wisdom rubbing shoulders with, like, the kind of incredible people we've had on. Like, you can only learn more. And so, yeah, I think it's important to sit down and have conversations and have those humanizing moments with people, especially today, like when there's so much hate going on, there's so much violence. We could go on and on, but it's like sit down with people and hear where they're coming from, because more or less they're probably just experiencing some core emotions. They're either experiencing passion, love, fear, the core emotions we act out of. And those are valid, whether that is misguided or not.
Kelly, which one of us do you think she's saying is the idiot in the room?
None of us are idiots.
Are we the idiots in the room?
Is she the idiot in the room?
It's the poster back there.
Am I the idiot?
The poster in the back is the idiot.
Well, we all know that I'm the smartest, so... Sorry
that's
about that.
I was just trying to say everyone has value, whether you agree or not.
But there are, stupid people in some rooms.
There's some stupid people.
Not in this room, but in some rooms.
You have to explain things sometimes, and that's okay. You know?
Yeah.
Not to us, but to other people.
Well, actually, the whole point of this podcast is for people to come in and explain things to us.
Yeah, basically.
But not because we're dumb, okay? Like,
so maybe we are the stupid people.
We are the idiots in the room.
Damn it.
Crack to the code. Oh, man. Yeah, for me, I mean, I echo all of the things you guys said. I think, as we've sort of already addressed, one of our biggest values is exploration. Our slogan is the exploration of everything, the explanation of nothing. So it's something that we really want people to take away is thoughtfulness. And I mean, I would encourage on like a practical side, you guys, the woman beings, to look at the resources that we've gathered over this time. All of our episodes with guests have so many great resources in the description, and like so much that you can read or listen to or watch that can just expand on those topics so much more. So that's your summer reading project.
That's our summer reading project. Let's be real. We have a lot of resources that we have to catch up on.
Yeah.
It's true.
But I also I think if something sparked in you, then find a way to get involved. You know, like if you really loved our episode about let's pull this one out because we haven't talked about it, about Christmas and consumerism. Like, find a way to plug into that. Find a way to advocate for the environment or for human rights in factories overseas, or get involved in an organization, or find a way to donate to a cause, or whatever that looks like for you. I think that one of the things that I love about getting to do this podcast is I feel like we have an outlet for advocacy. And I would encourage you guys to also find an outlet for your advocacy, for what sets you on fire, for what really gets you pumped up and you want to bring change. And I'd also say to have scary and brave conversations. You know, the people around you. I mean, you guys touched on that, like talking to people around you and seeking to understand, but like lean into those conversations that feel uncomfortable and that feel difficult, because you'll hopefully find that both parties in the conversation are better off for it. And they might get messy and they might get difficult, but I think it's worth having. I think just if you're talking in a heated discussion is better than not talking at all. That's what I'd say, because you need that discourse.
As long as kindness is in mind. And
yes, So
don't yell at people to hurt them. That's not better than not saying anything at all.
That is not better than not saying anything at all. Thank you. Yeah. So that's sort of what I would implore to the woman beings.
Yeah.
I implore you, woman beings. Be curious, explore everything, and get involved.
Yeah.
That's the slogan of season 2.
Wow. We just had it right here. It just happened. Ugh, ladies, I mean, gosh, what a wild ride we've been on. And we're gearing up for another one.
Yeah, we are.
We're committed.
We're not exactly winding down right now.
Not really. It's going to feel like it a little bit, but also not fully. But that's okay. But after this whole journey that we've been on, 40 episodes, almost a year, a whole season 1, how has What Does Woman Being Mean to You, wrapping up at the end of season 1, how has it evolved? Has it changed? Has it clarified for you? What does that look like?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, okay, so for maybe some clarity, we all said what our definition of woman being was at the beginning of this whole project, in our introductory episode. And I don't think that my definition has changed, but it has grown. I mean, growing is a type of change when we really get down to it. But I feel like it's grown as I've gotten to experience and see all these different women and get to be so inspired by them, and get to increase my passion just through talking with you guys. I actually, as I've reflected on femininity and womanhood, I have something I want to read. Which is just it was just a little reflection of mine that I had written about femininity and what womanhood means. Kind of poetic, but not really a poem, just a collection of words. Gosh, I hate myself for saying that.
It's such a 4 thing to say.
Okay. Well, I guess I just won't read it then.
No, read it.
Okay. You guys might have read this before because I've posted it before, but my femininity is not something to be used as an insult against somebody else. Yes, my femininity is not an insult, but my femininity is also not something to be defined by a culture's presuppositions of what femininity is. In fact, womanhood is worth celebrating, honoring, and revering. Femininity incites worship and awe. The female form is mighty, muscular, merciful, meek, all at once and all in a perfectly orchestrated symphony. It is not for the gaze of men or even the gaze of other women, but for the eyes that fall on her when no other living creature is present. Woman is being just for the beauty that being is. That's what power looks like, how grace feels on flesh, what a freedom hymn tastes like when it touches your tongue. That's femininity. And for me, it's the fact that womanhood is indefinable in so many ways. There is not one word that you can encapsulate what a woman is, of what the being feminine is. It is expansive because women are expansive, and I think that that's part of how we reflect God in God's expanse as well. And it's also that we don't have to show up in any sort of way in order to qualify as woman, as feminine. Just the fact that we are is plenty of qualification.
Oh, that's a good word.
That was a good word.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Y'all, my voice is gonna go, so I'm just gonna go quick. I'm not COVID, by the way. I got a negative test. Just, for any of you that are worried.
You won't catch it through the podcast.
You can't catch it. And neither can they. I think, to me, it still holds so true. Woman being is a human being. And I think that I've grown in, like, the way that I see people, and especially the way that I see women as like females and the femininity that we hold. And but yeah, like, holding true to the fact that, like, a human being is a human being is a human being. And they're worthy of love, and they are worthy of honor and respect and being heard. And what's beautiful about women that I've come to see is that we are ever changing but very constant at the same time. And we come, like Emma said, in a lot of different forms, in a lot of different days and times. And so, like, being able to embrace myself as changing but constant has been, like, part of my journey this year with you guys.
I love that.
Woman being.
Aww.
The end.
I think for me it's similar. It's this she's ever evolving. She's ever growing and ever changing. But the core of who she is stays the same. And then something I've been thinking about that might not be theologically sound, and that's fine, but is that God has put the mysteries of the universe inside of me, and that the wonder of the universe is inside of me. And really, we're just coming back to that. We're remembering who we are as women, as people. I'm like, gosh, God, let me remember the core of who you've created me to be, and calling back to that. And I think that applies so much to womanhood, especially in an age and in a culture that doesn't value femininity. And I'm like, oh, God, let us get back to the beauty of what you've given us, and the fact that we live on a feminine earth, the fact that we have a cyclical nature in our world and within ourselves, the fact that we go around the sun. You have literally so much of what you've created is very feminine, and that's really beautiful. And that doesn't mean there's not a space for masculine. That's not what I'm saying at all, but that there is a value and a sacredness and a holiness to the space of femininity holds. And there are many expressions of that. But I think that's what it has evolved for me.
It's so good.
Ever evolving, ever changing.
Just like our opinions.
Just like my opinions.
True.
And that it's okay to get it wrong and change your mind. And that's part of the education process. If you don't get it wrong, you never have to learn anything. So,
yeah.
That's true. If you don't get it wrong, are you learning?
yeah, you've just somehow arrived.
And are you risking?
Yeah.
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 It's true. Ladies, we made it.
Oh.
This is lap 1 of many laps,
Wow.
but we're wrapping it up, and I'm so grateful for this journey with both of you. I'm grateful that, 1, we did it, 2, that we still love each other and we're friends.
We don't hate each other.
We don't hate each other, and to many more seasons to come.
Here's hoping.
Here's to hoping.
And next season, I just receive sponsors. I receive endorsements.
Yes.
I receive
A-list guests.
a podcast label. I receive
Amen.
Woman Being Studios.
Yes.
Woman Being Studios. Oh my gosh, guys. Did we just leak a little bit of our dream?
Maybe.
Woman Being Studios
Woman
one day.
Being the
Fingers
book.
And you know,
crossed.
maybe you guys will get some hints as we post on Instagram this summer.
Well,
Maybe we'll
yeah.
give you some insight during our retreat. I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe
we'll
we'll
keep you
say never
updated.
mind.
Yeah. Maybe we'll let you in on our own projects we're working on over the summer. Anyways, thank you for being here with us, Woman Beings. We so appreciate and value you, and we are so honored and privileged that we were able to host space, hopefully for your process as well as ours. And we hope that you've learned something along the journey with us. And we will definitely see you in season 2. So you don't miss anything as we ease into our break and then ramp back up into season 2, make sure you follow us on all the platforms. We're talking TikTok. We're talking Instagram. Definitely not Facebook, because who uses that anymore?
No one. But
No
YouTube.
one. But YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Well, nothing new will be on actually Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Well, yeah.
Or YouTube.
But you can rewatch old
Reruns.
content.
Everybody loves
You can
reruns.
comment. You can like.
Yeah.
You can subscribe. Really, it truly helps us out. We can't tell you how much. I know that influencers say that all the time, but it's really true. It really helps. So yeah, make sure to interact with us over on our Instagram. We will be posting things, not as frequently, but we would definitely will. So, and we hope to see you back here in September.
See you in September.
Aww. And yeah, don't know how else to end this, but we'll end it. And we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.